Good morning, everyone. My name is MightyStream. Today is September the 27th. We're going to do your spiritual principle a day in a meditation. You can get a copy of that at na.org. They are now available. I am brought to you by Hope Through Navigation, and this is our H.O.D Recovery Services. I'm looking forward to doing this meditation successfully. I will say this is my third taping already this morning. And some of you that have children, you understand that process in the morning. Okay, so September 27th is called Vigilance and the Path of Recovery. Again, if you want to reach me, I forgot to say that, do so at recoveryofhope21@gmail.com. Vigilance and the Path of Recovery. We can get stuck in patterns so quickly. Vigilance is necessary to keep old patterns from resurfacing. Living Clean, Chapter 2, Connection to Ourselves. We used to get utterly stuck, didn't we? We were taught or caught up in impulsive patterns that seemed impossible to interrupt for any length of time. Our first real hope of breaking free from the grip of our disease came when we found NA. When we admitted our powerlessness over our addiction, the possibility of new, stable, productive patterns of behavior became a real possibility. It's a relief to be off the toxic path of our past, but staying on track with our recovery requires vigilance. It takes practice to break out of destructive patterns and develop new, healthier habits. The good news is that we can now see our disease coming and can usually head off old behaviors before we're in deep trouble. Still, times of intense struggle or humdrum complacency bring thoughts of instant relief to mind. Rather than risk going back to our old ways, we sometimes find new distractions disguised as recovery. I quickly found new bad behaviors to give me that same rush, even those that seemed helpful on the surface. One minute I'm taking on a service commitment or maybe two, and the next I'm completely obsessed, ignoring my family and other responsibilities. The member continued, practicing vigilance is serious business. It reminds me that there's danger out there and in my head. How do we stay vigilant? Sharing what's going on with us is crucial. We learn to be vulnerable and open to suggestions. No matter what step we're officially on, we can do a spot check inventory and talk about it with a friend or our sponsor. We can branch out in our approach to working a program, talk to more newcomers, end a commitment without re-upping on the same committee, or take a new challenge, or hit our lit, as in our literature, okay? Work the traditions in guiding principles, or reflect on these entries every day. As with much of recovery, we don't practice vigilance alone. Often it's NA members we're close to who notice before we do that we are veering off into the wilderness. It's a fellow member's keen, protective eye and each other's wisdom that helps keep us what we have and give us courage to walk down a different path. We create new patterns again. Vigilant keeps me on guard, on track, and free. I will examine my choices, open up to another addict, and be open to suggestions that can keep old patterns from becoming new problems. I kind of have an idea of why this meditation was so complicated to read today. However, barring human nature and occasional misspeaking a word or two here and there, I am not going to retape this particular podcast. I'm not doing a fourth retaping of a podcast that I believe that you get the essence of it, right? The essence of it is that we flip-flop around. We go from really, really feeling like we're doing a good job to really feeling like we're not doing such a good job. Those automatic thoughts, right? Those negative automatic thoughts that I talked about earlier. And sometimes in reality, we are complacent. We are, on this plateau, and we don't really care right now if we do another service commitment or not. We don't even care if we make another meeting or not. I talked to a young lady, I can't remember how much time she has now, but yesterday she made 3 meetings. She needed to make 3 meetings, but there's sometimes 3 days that she might not hit a meeting at all. So we can go from being really busy in our recovery and really vigilant to not being vigilant at all. And I would submit to anyone a little bit every day and a lot on the rough days really works for me. And I hope that it'll work for you, because life happens. And one thing we know for certain, too, for sure, that I am responsible for my recovery. I'm not responsible for anyone else's recovery. Unless I'm dealing with minors that I'm raising, I really have no authority over anyone else. And when I stay in my lane, my life is much happier. I could spend hours and hours and hours thinking about how life could be for a person if they just did this, if they just did that. That's not my business. What is my business is when I'm interacting with them. If I don't want to be interacting with them, one, I don't have to. But if I am, the way I interact is my responsibility. And when I'm done struggling, I'll be done struggling. What does that mean for this? It means that on the path of recovery, you're still going to need to be able to make sound decisions. No one comes into the program being able to make beautiful decisions, because if I could make beautiful decisions, then I wouldn't be in Narcotics Anonymous. And I know that's a cliche when we talk about our best thinking got us here. I understand that. But honestly, and it sounds so derogatory, but when you think about it, your obsession and compulsion with the drugs in your disease of addiction, if your best thinking landed you here, you might want to put that best thinking on the shelf for a minute and get some clarity. I was talking about an experience yesterday about a dream that I had about someone very special to me sinking in quicksand. And I proceeded to pray and alert them to, the possible dangers of bad decision making and not remembering some of the things that you were raised with and taught to do and not to do. And how, figuratively speaking, you could end up in quicksand. And as a result of those decisions, cause a lot of harm to yourself and people that love you. And this person is a very young person. They said, well, I know what to do. I'll just take my foot out of my shoe and then I'll lay it down, do the other one, and I'll just walk across my shoes to safety. And I kept a straight face. I didn't laugh in their face. I didn't mock them. And I shared with them that in real life, in real quicksand, even if you could pull your foot out, you might not be able to get to the shoe. right? And so in our childish mind, this is my point, in our childish mind, in our fresh recovery mind, in our unprincipled mind, because you can be around a long time and still be unprincipled like I was. We come up with some very wonderful, great ideals about how to get out of that bottomless pit that we dug for ourselves, out of the quicksand, how to get unstuck. But if you talk to someone that's been around a while before you go about that decision, they might have some input and some experience, some real experience to share with you. I have a lot of experience about failed marriages. I have tons of experience about failed relationships. I have a experience or two of putting my hands on people and being so thankful that charges were not pressed, but they could have, right? So I have some experience. I may not have every experience, but find someone that you can start networking with. I was talking to a gentleman the other day, and I was talking about sometimes we need peers. We need people that are traveling the road that we've, or have traveled the road that we've traveled, so that we can relate to them. I need women in my life that are headed towards 60, right? That are older and understand what it means to all of a sudden find yourself at this age raising young people, when technically your children should be adults by now, and you might be, babysitting here and there for grandchildren, but mostly you and your husband can do what you want to do, go where you want to go. I need to interact with women that have the lived experience that I am currently living, right? So that I can receive from them. I don't have, other than the fact that I might mentor someone or have the commonality of recovery and meet them at a convention or something. A 20-year-old woman trying to decide whether or not she's going to get in her boyfriend's phone and look at his messages. My husband has my passcode to my phone and I have his. That's not, the 20-year-old is not going to bring something to my table in a sense that of lived experience, okay? Because I can get help from anyone. And so I was just encouraging the individual to find a group of people that actually have grown children like you and are actually now dealing with how those grown children might still be angry because of your using days and not want to trust letting you see your grandchildren by yourself. And start finding that group of people and start having some conversations with those people that are either going through that or have lived that. Because you'll find a lot of wisdom, right? Water seeks its own level. And a lot of times in life, in recovery, we need to seek others that are going through what we're passing through, so we can know how they did it. How did you come out on the other side successful? And that's one way that you can be vigilant about your recovery. There's other ways, and I'm sure that you can think of them. You don't need me to itemize them for you, but today I want you to be thinking about that. On this path of recovery, it hasn't always been great for you. What can you do to be more vigilant about it? I have no problem being passionate about my recovery. Sometimes I'm too passionate, and that's what I want to work on. I want to work on not having to exert so much energy in every personal engagement that I have with someone. Give them room to figure out their own situation, right? So I want to thank you today for listening, and I look forward to talking to you tomorrow. Have a beautiful day on purpose.